Hello, Wolfe City. Welcome back to the Wolfe City Mirror podcast. It's been a while since our first podcast, but here we are with number 2, and we're going to keep them going. This is the podcast for Wolfe City, by Wolfe City, and about Wolfe City. And here's my co-host, Ant Cruz.
Cheers to see you all again. You know, the thing is, we actually did record other podcasts in the past, but the sound was terrible. We had that weather summer from hell, you know, and just filming out of Patrick's war room, his garage, was just a nightmare. So then we tried it in my house. Did not have the right angles, just looked terrible. So here we are trying it again, and hopefully moving forward, we'll have something consistent for y'all. It was never our intention to have such a long hiatus. Anyways, hope you enjoy this show. We'll definitely keep bringing them out there. And anything else?
Yeah, we got the Wolfe City PDs about to be part of this second episode, so stay tuned.
Thank you.
When I'm lying in my pity night, I don't wanna grow. Nothing is turning right, and I don't wanna grow. How do you move in a world with fog that's always changing things? Fall in love, get tired of blue. How the hell did I get so soon? I just want to grow up.
Hello, Wolfe City. Welcome back to the Wolfe City Mirror podcast. We are here with our guest today, Chief Billy Ivy.
How you doing, Chief?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you back again.
Again, yes.
You didn't miss anything. We just had a podcast episode that could not be shown because we lost audio. Hence the new digs. How do you like it? It looks pretty cool. Thank you, Jimmy Doolan, for providing this for us. So you're new to the town still, even though it's been several months now. You've been in office
4 months,
since
5 months.
October, right?
Since October last year.
So, and I'm definitely sure that a lot of people have met you, but I'm also certain that a lot of people haven't. So, You want to tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I've got 23 years in law enforcement. I've been in 6 different agencies, and that sounds horrible, but I retired from Garland PD. I did 16 years there. Before that, 5 years down in the Galveston County area where I was born and raised. And then was chief in Josephine for a little bit, went to Leonard, and then finally found my home here. And I wouldn't ask for a better place. I love it here. But I'm a master peace officer. I'm a TCOLA instructor, drug recognition expert instructor, standardized field sobriety instructor, a lot of DWI related classes that I've gone through, and just experience and teaching is what I love to do.
Teaching. I didn't remember that from last time.
All right.
No, I didn't throw that in there last time, but I got to thinking. I also didn't give, all the certifications I've got, and those are the main ones. Those are the ones that are important to me.
Yeah. So you were looking for a small town to come to whenever you were.
I was. I started out in a small city, and not near as small as here, but in Santa Fe, Texas, and back then it was fairly small. It was about 8,000 people, and I just really enjoyed the small town atmosphere. You knew everybody knew you, and my grandfather had a house there, and so I always said if I ever became a chief of police somewhere, it was going to be in a small town where I could still be out and active and be working. Lo and behold, what I didn't know is that there's 24 hours worth of work inside that building just as well. So, but no, I do. I always wanted to be a small town police chief, and it's kind of a dream come true, I guess.
It's got to be a lot different than those big cities where you hardly know anybody. In a small town like this, you really get to know your community and probably feel like you can make a bigger difference.
Yes. Very much so.
We're definitely bringing a lot of change, and you've taken the PD to another level that I've noticed since I've been here. So it's only been 2 years, so I can't speak for any of the previous PDs, but the recent one to you, it's like night and day. Walking into that back room, the office, the whole area. It's just. I'm not afraid of spiders.
no, or crickets, or roaches,
or mice,
or mice.
Not even mice, just rats with big old teeth.
I'm very OCD and ADD, and I have to have. If it's not my way, or if it's not very clean and sterile, then I can't focus on what I'm doing. So yeah, we change some things up, but it flows better.
We definitely have to have that, especially like if your vehicle, your shop is like your office like 90% of the day.
Yes.
How are you able to function if you don't have a bit of OCD and make sure that it's clean and proper and you know where everything is? I mean, I would think you need to be able to reach for the shotgun when you can and not have to shuffle for it.
No, you're absolutely right. And, an organization comes in every facet of police work, especially when you're in a small agency where, I'm the chief and I was doing investigations and, all the administrative work as well.
Yeah.
You can't, you got to be organized, otherwise it's just chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, and when we did our trial run for this podcast, I liked how you talked about what led you and the rest of the city council to pick Billy Ivy. You want to go over that again?
He had a really beautiful face.
Winning personality. Is that suit that I wore?
It was like this.
It helps to spend money on headshots.
He had a great headshot. It was like sold. We had to go through several people to interview through, and by the time I was brought in, the city council was brought in. I think they went down from like 14 to 7 or 6 candidates or something like that, and we had to have several meetings on this above and beyond our regular city council meetings. And these meetings actually lasted way longer than a regular city council meeting. Our regular city council meetings can go anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on how much we had to deal with. But these were on average of 3 hours. We were giving them a lot of time. So we were doing 2 interviews a night, and it was like basically an hour each. We allowed it, but we could have gone overtime. It didn't matter, if it had to go overtime, that was fine. And then we spent about another hour or so discussing. And so we really methodically went over each and every candidate, and we just kept narrowing it down, and finally we came down to Chief Ivy and one other person, and Chief Ivy, of course, won out. I mean, you made the most sense, We did have, some of us had difference of opinions. I even wasn't certain 100% because I also liked the other guy as well. But all I needed was, we needed to discuss it, air it out, and then we was like, okay, got it. And so it was a unanimous decision for all of us to hire Chief Billy Ivy. And then after that was the long, elaborate background check. And due to the tragic circumstances that happened several years ago here in town, that's been a situation that, we have taken into account of making sure that there is a true and long, elaborate background check, because we want to make sure that never happens again. And I don't see it as any fault to anyone. Realistically, you live and you learn in everything in life, right? And I mean, that was truly a harsh lesson. And I know that the deceased party is well beloved in this town, and if it wasn't for him, I personally wouldn't be here in this town. I didn't even know about this town till I heard about the whole situation. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't. I was at the time looking to leave Rockwall, move into a small town, because that's what I really wanted. When I left Long Beach, California, came to Texas, I thought Rockwall was a small town. And little do I know, what is a city boy from Long Beach
compared
town?
to LA?
Well, because you're looking at like 1 million plus residents coming to 30,000 people. You're like, ooh, that's small. I mean, my high school had like 4,500 people.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, yeah, okay, this is 30,000 people. It's a small town. This is it. No, it's basically a small city, with a few cows and a few horses here and there. But that's what fooled me, because I lived on the north side part. So, you're right there, and you're seeing cows and horses and pastures. Yeah. But the development grew so quick. Like within a year, I didn't even recognize Rockwall anymore.
It's exploding.
Oh, big time. And it's coming out this direction, which is scary. I hope not too fast.
No, we're gonna get it from all 4 sides.
Maybe you guys in Cattle Mills can stop it. It's just like
The good thing is we don't have the interstate going through
Right.
town, so that's the good
No,
thing.
but if they bring-
it's probably close enough.
They keep bringing 121 around, and it's gonna follow 121. It's already followed it in the Trenton.
Yeah, but 121's taken 20 years just to get their roads right.
That's all right. People are gonna be here before you know it.
As long
I
as
promise.
we don't don't have a toll road going through.
Yeah, but
okay.
yeah, so I'm looking at all these places, and that situation happened, and I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And I'm like, Wolfe City, what an awesome name. I was really sold on the name at first, and then I'm like, man, that happened. Oh, I'm not going to Wolfe City. No way. And I was looking at towns like Gun Barrel and Winsboro and all of that, but and I love that name, Gun Barrel too.
Gun Barrel.
Yeah.
Gun Barrel's pretty.
I've got a little story about that.
But Wolfe City literally is the best. But yeah, I mean, at first I was like, oh no, I'm staying away from that town. But then I saw a week later when BLM and those idiots in black, we're all black and masks. What are they called?
The Antifa folks.
Antifa's.
Antifa.
Yeah, and I saw that happen. I watched it live on Facebook Live, right? And I saw these people coming all angry and all this, and then the town come together, and they kumbaya that shit. They took it down to a level of like love, and I was just like, maybe this is a town I want to check out. So I kept it in mind.
I remember that night being scared that something might happen.
From what I hear, everybody, especially the ones along this town. Jimmy was here, and Jimmy was it's his place.
Oh yeah, they were probably marching right in front of your door.
Did you put planks on your window or anything, or you just stood out there with your ARs?
I was ready.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I was ready too. I had some loaded guns ready just in case something happened. But that was a moment to be proud of the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't turn into some riot fest like these ones that get all the news.
Yeah.
It was
The
beautiful.
community did come together around the Jonathan Price situation. It was more just mourning and more just get the word out. This doesn't need to happen type of thing.
Yeah. Well, from the outside looking in, I was applauding this town. I was just like, whoa. You didn't see that anywhere. From that whole year of just constant just negativity and riots and just everything just blowing up, right? To see that, it was literally like a, I don't know, Hallmark movie event, Seriously, they can make a movie out of it. I think they should.
It probably, it's the right way to do things.
100%.
It's a good example
100%.
of how those terrible situations should happen.
No.
Right.
On the police level, do y'all have after these incidents like that happen? Do y'all have some sort of training that y'all go through to better equip officers for dealing with stressful situations, or just what's your view on that whole type situation there?
So, in a bigger city, like when I was in Garland, what we did is we actually learned how to maintain riot control. We went out for a week, and literally we learned how to, because none of us knew that. It didn't happen. This was after the Dallas 5 incident, and we actually were taught by the SWAT team how to formations, who's in charge, how to march or not march, but move upon a group of rioters and take control of the situation again. In a smaller area like this, it's going to take a team effort of not only us, but the county, probably the state as well. What we're trying to do with myself and Lieutenant Gonzalez, both being from bigger cities, is we're trying to get some training put together so that we can work as a unit with not only the county but also the state, DPS troopers, so that if something like that happens and we get various agencies from around the area, we'll all know how to react together. We won't have somebody overreacting or underreacting. But there's always something that we can take away from, horrible situations like what happened. And for me, a big thing is training.
Yeah.
We need a new officer coming in that doesn't have a whole lot of experience. We'll go through de-escalation training. We'll go through a true FTO phase or a field training officer phase. And that's what we put them through when they're brand new to the department. And that's not just a young officer, that's anybody. I need to make sure that they know what they're doing, because they're going to be left alone to enforce the laws in this town for several hours at a time. So training is very beneficial, it's very important to us. But things I've found in my career as I've gotten older, fighting's not so much fun. It hurts more and it takes longer to recover.
Oh man!
But
You can de-escalate. That's
yes, and I'm a state certified hostage negotiator, and I've found in the time of being a negotiator that words really do have a whole lot more impact on folks than physicality.
Oh, I bet.
And so that de-escalation is very important to us, and learning how to deal with folks with mental handicaps. And again, I go back to Lieutenant Gonzalez. That's his forte. That's what he was. He has a degree in it. He was a supervisor for LifePath. So he is a huge godsend to the department, to the city, because he's another level-headed senior officer that brings more than just law enforcement experience to the table. But yeah, there's going to be all kinds of training. We're going to go through. I've already talked to the chief out at Leonard and Leonard ISD, and we're going to do some active shooter training. And I'm actually looking into a program. It's about $250. So if anybody wants to donate, just give it to Ant. He'll give it to me.
I'm going to buy a few of these.
But it's a great program. It's called Mantis X, and you replace the live ammunition with more like a laser dummy round. And what it does, you've got a target in front of you, and you could have, there's various different targets, and it's like live fire but dry. So you can run through shoot don't shoot scenarios. You can run through de-escalation scenarios, and have the same impact as if you're live firing in a safer environment. And so there's things like that we can't go out there and shoot at each other. So like we were when we were kids.
Right.
So would be a huge benefit to us if we could get hold of that. So just looking at things like that.
Getting back to Lieutenant Gonzalez, right?
Yes.
Real quick, we just swore him in, right? You got him sworn in at the city council meeting this past Monday, and I'll put footage of that. We've got some footage of that being done, and tell us a little bit about Lieutenant Gonzalez. And he made a few comments, but.
So Mike Gonzalez is his name. He worked in Frisco for, I want to say 16, 17 years or so. He was a detective for over 10 years there, and he left Frisco. He's a lot like me. We didn't know each other at the time, but found out that we're very much alike. He enjoys the small town atmosphere better because we both feel like we can make a bigger difference in a smaller community. And so he was working in Josephine when I retired from Garland, and he was my sergeant there. And he is actually the one who trained me, if you want to call it training, when I got to Josephine. And then right after I got there, a couple months later, he retired. He went back to, like I said earlier, he's got a background in mental health. That's what his degree's in. And
he doesn't have mental health issues. He's got a background in mental health.
We all have a little bit of mental health issues.
Yeah, true, that's true.
To do this job where we run towards the gunfire instead of away from it.
Yes.
But no, before he got to law enforcement, he worked with juveniles and whatnot on the mental health side. And when he retired, he went back to the mental health side of enforcement with a civilian company in McKinney, where he quickly rose through the ranks and became a supervisor. Well, he really, I think, missed law enforcement, talking to him. And I could tell how much he missed it. So I just asked him, I said, look, I've got a part-time position. This was right after I came here. And I just need somebody to help me clear up cold cases. Because when I came in, the first thing I did was I went back through the first 2 years of cases and found that there was a lot of cases that should have been, could have been, needed to be filed, but there wasn't a whole lot of investigation put toward them. So I just made the proposal to him, and he was on board like that. And then once he got that taste for it again, he's like, man, I love this city. It's a great little town. It's got great bones, great environment. And so we sat down and we talked about bringing him in full time. And it just so happens that with Sergeant Hayes and his injury, he's going to be down for a lengthy period of time with his surgery. I had that opening, and with him bringing his supervisory skills, his investigative skills, his mental health skills, just a huge benefit to the city. It was almost a no-brainer. So he's been a world of help and brought in a huge amount of knowledge, but he's also another 20-plus year veteran officer who can help me as we bring in newer recruits and newer officers, help me to train them the correct way to where we are comfortable that they know what they're doing before we allow them to be out on the streets by themselves.
Well, I mean, it's sad there, and I'm sure unpleasant that Sergeant Jared Hayes is dealing with the hip issues, right?
Yeah.
And he's got that surgery coming. But this definitely gives him a good amount of time to learn from you guys, work with you guys, and then when he is back on the field and on his feet, you guys are all three on par, right?
Yes.
With the investigation mindset, with what you all bring to this town. I mean, and again, it's good to have outside people come into a small town because you're bringing into this one impartiality. You're not partial to.
We're not from here.
You're not like, well, I knew that person since 30 years ago.
Right.
He was like you're not bringing. You're just like, no, you did the crime. You're doing the time, and that's pretty much the mindset we have to have from our PD. Which is I'm sure it's not something people will appreciate when it happens to them, but just don't let it happen to you.
It just if we're here to enforce the laws of the state, the city ordinances, and federal laws. It's not selective enforcement. We can't enforce them for one, but not to the other. And we've run into a few instances like that. But with especially the council and the citizens, such as yourself, we've got a huge backing. I've never worked in a city before, even Santa Fe, where we've had such a huge group of supporters as we have here in Wolfe City, citizens included.
Yes.
But it is, especially with myself and Lieutenant Gonzalez, it's we call it the laser shotgun theory. If you're going to laser, you're focusing that at one person, but the others that are doing the same thing aren't getting the same, the same treatment. Or the shotgun theory, where you pull the trigger and it puts out a spray, and everybody gets hit that's doing the same, creating the same type of offense or city violation, whatever the case may be. And that's the only fair way to do it. But bringing, coming from the bigger cities, we've been there, and I've been in shootings. Not personally have had to shoot anybody, but I've been involved in them. And I've been involved in, with murders and rapists and just the whole gamut. And that was in the first week literally the first week I was in Garland.
Wow.
And Mike has seen, Lieutenant Gonzalez has seen the growth of a small town. And in 5 years, 10 years, the first 10 years he was there, it became what is now Frisco as we know it. And that's going to happen here. We're going to blow up. Probably not that big, but nobody thought Roy City or Josephine was going to be as big as they are. And look at that.
That's true. Not if I can help it. We'll slow down.
The money would be nice, the tax base, but
the money would be nice, but not at the cost of our soul. This is a great little country town. We want to keep it a great little country town.
It is. But it's going to happen. And the philosophy we have is one of two. We can watch it go by and watch people go and flourish past us, which is fine if you want to keep it a small bedroom community. But eventually, small bedroom communities like this die out because as the younger generations start replacing the older generations, they don't want to live in Wolfe City anymore. They travel back and forth to Dallas or Plano or whatever. So they want to live in the bigger cities.
I believe that to a point because yes, before it was all about, hey, to be able to flourish, you have to go to the cities, you have to be close to the cities. But with today's world, we can work remote. We can do really well, monetarily, working out of our house, or even
I was
the
going to say,
commute.
I can't work remote.
But you can. But even the commute for most people is a lot easier. Technology, vehicles, roads, everything's gotten a lot easier to where, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was a pain in the butt, going from here to another town to work on a regular basis. But now it's like, I've noticed an influx of people wanting to come and move into these. I wanted to move to a small city. I wanted to go from the big city to a small town.
There's several people from California right here.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Which is odd.
Every single person I know from California here and I've gotten to know them all. We just kind of, I guess, magnetize, attract each other, or whatever. But we're all conservative. We're not the, I guess so, but we're not the blue California. Like people are like, oh, we don't want Californians here, and I'm like, yeah, you do when they're the right Californians.
Anybody.
But the blue ones, no, I'm with you. Let's send them to Austin.
But you just said it yourself. People are moving to the smaller towns like this to get away from the big city hustle and bustle.
So this, I think, we always do well.
But do we want to be a city where people say, man, it's beautiful downtown, and we've got all these shops that we can walk to from our house. And right now you can't. From anywhere in the city, in the city limits, you can pretty much walk right down here to Main Street. And if we just got a few more of these buildings filled out with some shops that people want to be a part of, want to be in, like the art walk you've put together, and some of the holiday events that we've got.
Yes.
But do we want people to come into town and say, this is beautiful and I want to be a part of it? Or do we want people to say, no, we're going to go on up to Ladonia where they're building new houses, or we're going to move on, closer to Commerce or Cattle Mills?
Definitely want to be pro-growth.
I think there's a balance, and I want both, and it is my prayer that our Main Street, downtown Main Street, does have more business in there. We do have the space. It's a whole other thing. I don't even want to
It just takes people with money to come in, and some of the buildings are run down. They need to be renovated, like we were talking about the upstairs over City Hall. And Jimmy's a prime example. Even you've taken places that weren't made for habitations and made them beautiful living spaces. And if nothing else, the upstairs part, and that could be beautiful apartments, loft apartments.
Yeah, I call it loft living without the skyrise view.
I always thought the one up above City Hall could be a good loft.
Oh yeah,
That would,
because
wouldn't
it's got huge rooms, and
But would you want somebody above the police department?
I mean,
The right people?
Right.
that's exactly right. If
I don't think you'd probably want to put an 18 to 21 year old up there probably.
with 12 streaming kids, no, but you make I don't know, 4, 5, 6, however much room there is, small, nice, efficiency type apartments for somebody like yourself that's a computer programmer that does that works from home. And I think they did it in Leonard and on the main street there, the square around the city government building, and they made all those loft apartments. And the time that I was in Leonard, never had one call out there because they vet the kind of people that they rent to.
Oh yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be one or two. But yeah, we never had any problems, and it's just something as simple as putting lights above the tops of the buildings downtown and light it up at night.
We've actually talked about that, the residences that live here in the street. Jeremy, Tina, Ben, we've talked about getting with the people that do own business. It's like $50 a string, and they'd even string it. They're like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that is going to happen, but it's going to happen because the people that live here on Main Street want to make it happen. Which is great because that's the kind of attitude I think all of us should have. We all need to be a part of this town and bring what we can bring to this town, whether something like that. Like it might seem like nothing big and it's just like something that they just want to do. But can you imagine the impact that's going to have? People driving down the street, they're going to go, that's nice. Celeste has that.
I was going to say, drive to Leonard, drive to Celeste, and drive through there after dark. When those lights come on, it's beautiful.
And it's just
amazing.
Solar lighting, and they just...
But it gives the appearance of what I call that old town or old world feel, where you're back in the early 1900s, right as electricity was coming through, and people were starting to put lights out, and it was it showed wealth. You had to be wealthy to be able to afford electricity. Man, something as simple as just stringing lights up and
solar
coming
lights?
on at night. I mean, it's beautiful.
But every little thing, like if we all came together as a town and brought something forward, like the other night, I made a post last night on Wolfe City News about, and it was just a casual joking comment, but some people took it to heart. But I was at the Landon's Winery with a friend, and she and I were drinking some wine out there, and it turned out like half of Wolfe City was out there picking up their wine and all of that. So people were coming in, and I was thinking I was just going to hang out, just be calm and casual and quiet. But no, it's half of Wolfe City's there, and I walk in, and people walk up to us, and then this one group walks up to me, and they're like, "You're Mr. Wolfe City. I hear you're Mr. Wolfe City." And I'm like, "What? I'm Mr. Wolfe City?" And I started to laugh. But then I thought, I freaking like that. I'm Mr. Wolfe City, So I posted that last night, and the people were like, "Well, I'm Mr. Wolfe City, or I'm not, or you're Mr. Wolfe. I beg to differ," or something like that. I'm just like,
you might have to fight Doug for that time.
Exactly right. No, if anybody's Mr. Wolfe City, it's John W. Duncan. But no, some people were like, because they'd been here for life and all this and that. I'm like, well, they're only calling me that not because I was born here or raised here, but because I'm been pretty much involved in all of the different.
Oh, and you show your love, and
I show my love.
It.
Always posting, and I participate in quite a few of the events, and all I do is what everybody else can do. Anybody who wants to do that, please do it. I don't need to be the only Mr. Wolfe City in town. I want everybody to be Mr. and Mrs. Wolfe City.
It just takes one catalyst.
Wonderful.
It takes one catalyst for change.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Much like and we could roll this into the police department as well. I didn't know what Wolfe City was, never heard of it, until 2020 when it happened. And coming in, my philosophy was, how do we need to not forget that happened. We need to grow and learn from what happened. And the best way to grow and learn, in my experience, is to create a culture change. And something as simple as, I've redesigned the badges and the patch.
And I got to get you that artwork. Sorry.
Oh,
Wait a
yeah.
minute.
Yes, you do right now.
Yes. Let me get that over there.
And getting the cars that we had, they had old markings on them. And so, getting that updated, and then the newest one we've got, it's a 2017 with 100,000 miles on it, but it's an old Allen PD car. But the scheme that I came up with for the black cars, it's not going to work. So we've got another culture change with that, and I think that it wouldn't really matter if it was all black, black and white, all white, would fit good. And that's where, just because I'm the chief of police doesn't mean I know everything. And that decal that I came up with for the black ones was specific to a black vehicle. If it went on a black and white, it looked like Shamu at SeaWorld. Yeah. So, we came up with something different, classic. I love the classic look of the old black and whites. But it's just, it's got to start somewhere. So with the PD, it was a simple change of putting new decals on.
The old black and whites always remind me of that old show, and I'm aging myself. I'm dating myself. Adam 12.
Adam 12.
Remember Adam 12? Oh, I love that show. As a kid.
Now I only saw reruns, but...
So you mentioned last time that people think that we have new vehicles. We don't have new police vehicles. It's just new decals.
Right. It was funny.
We didn't buy a new one, though, but it's new to us.
Right. That's what I said, new to us. The Explorer that we got, Allen PD, shout out to them, huge. I can't say his last name, but Chief Deputy, or Deputy Chief is what they are over there, Kyle, does their fleet management, and it just so happens that they had one decommissioned sitting out at a place in Van Alstyne where we get ours upfitted now, and he did us real good.
Did you say it's going to have a different look from the other two?
It's going to have different decals.
Different decals?
Yeah, all that blue, it would not. No, it doesn't look good on the black and whites.
Yeah, I guess so. No.
But I like the black and whites. I've always liked the black and white, and we just fell into a huge opportunity for not a whole lot of money, and as we're hurting so bad for cars right now. I mean, literally between the Tahoe and the truck, wanted both of them at the same time. Been in the shop for the last month and a half for just various reasons. They're 2012s. They're getting there in age, and hopefully we can phase them out at some point. But we got to make them last, so we needed something just to be able to. So we didn't have to come borrow, a scooter or Ant's motorcycle.
Yeah. one of those things you stand up on.
Those Segways?
Yeah, Segways.
Don't think I didn't think about that, strapping one out.
I'm not sure how that would operate on these Wolfe City roads.
You saw me on a Christmas parade, oh my God. At least they kept me up, though. It was so deep, I didn't go down. It
He just stuck.
We went forward.
But no, going back to what I was saying, somebody's got to be a catalyst for change, and even if it's small change, you get everybody on board, kind of like with this neighborhood watch thing that we were talking about. Let's great things can be done just by the first person coming in and say, let's try this. It may not work, but let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's. I know that neighborhood watch meeting happened like a week or two ago.
It was a good turnout, but again, it was. We're just touching base, and a lot of people have a lot of specific concerns. So it kind of went in that direction. I probably was a part of that as well. I mean, I have the same concerns, but either way, it's like we're human, and we care, and so there's no fault to anything, but the aftermath, and like I was telling you, Chief, is like the after, because I left that night feeling a little kind of like I was really cool. I was happy that it was a big turnout, considering we had a basketball game that night and it was pouring rain. Yeah. It was like really one of the rainiest nights I've ever. And we had like 30 people.
30 people.
It was like 28 people total, with you and I included in that number. So it was 28 people total that showed up for that. And but when I started, towards the end, when I had mentioned, okay, well, anybody that wants to get involved in the organization of this, let's hear it now, because I want to start setting the next meeting. As I was saying, that's when people took it as their cue to leave. So it was just like, she was just like, I emptied the room, right? Wow. So I was like, oh man, that's disappointing. So I thought that was, that people don't want to get involved, don't want to participate. But then that night, I started getting text messages by people that were there that were like, I want to do this, let's do this. Can we make it a citizens thing versus a city thing? And I'm like, absolutely, like the chief had mentioned. I go, we do need to follow a certain protocol, but yeah, let's absolutely talk about that. So there's quite a few people that want to even take over, and they're like, well, who's going to run it? I'm like, do you want to run it? Because I would love for you to run it. I would love for you to be a part of that, to be in charge. We'll work together with Chief Ivy and all the bylaws, everything like that. But I would like for other people, other than the same 22 faces I see at the same committees that I'm in, I'd like to see outside people. And I think if they did that, if people that, that aren't usually at other things because they can't, because of work, whatever, I get it. I'm not faulting anyone. It's just, but if they took that on themselves, they're going to reach out to their circle and their world, and that's going to take the commitment and the community of people coming that don't necessarily come to the other things, and that's just going to spread us out even more to the participation love, which that's what I call it, participation love.
So what's the overall? I've never been involved in a neighborhood watch. What's the overall goal or purpose that serves?
So my purpose on this, and I know Chief has a different one too, but or even the same one, but my purpose on this is to bring the town together, not just the neighborhood, but the town together as we're watching, each other. We're watching like, hey, so-and-so, like, they won't announce it. They're not going to put it on the Facebook News. We're not going to put it on Facebook News, whoever's in charge. But whoever is part of that will be let known privately. And of course, we trust each other. That hey, so and so's out for the weekend. Let's watch their home. If you see it or know something, I mean, to me, that brings a lot of good comfort. Because I leave town a lot too. I would like to say, hey, just keep an eye on my place, or whatever. That's one thing. Two is letting people just know, just putting it out there that people know in general that this whole town is watching. So you speed, you break into something, you do anything unscrupulous, it's going to be watched, it's going to be noticed, and it's going to be told.
Reported.
It's going to be reported. That's the word. Better word than told, right? Snitches get stitches. Right?
Well, I mean, in some of the other areas that I've worked, agencies I've worked, Santa Fe in particular, it's kind of like the Citizens Police Academy, and I think we'll talk about it later, but a town this small, you can't really say neighborhood because we don't really have neighborhoods like most people think. So a town watch type thing like we talked about, but it comes down to the watch part. See and say. If you see something going on, don't go try to handle it yourself because you're not a police officer. And if something bad were to happen, God forbid, I'd hate for a citizen to get hurt trying to do something that's our job. But if we've got 3 full-time officers and one's down, like I said, with a hip injury, and I've got 2 or 3 reserves. I've got another guy who wants to come on as a reserve with 39 years of experience. But in total, that's 6 people. And that's 3 that are here the majority of the time. We can't be here all hours of the day, all day, every day a week. So having the citizens out there and having their eyes and ears, and if they see something that just doesn't look right to them, they can call me, they can email me, they can leave a voicemail on my desk phone, my work phone, and come up to the PD and we can talk about it. This past week, it almost like you guys spread the word already because this past week I've had 2 come in and give us a little bit of information, and we went right out there and checked on it and and spoke to the folks that were involved and try to hit it off before it turned into something bad. But that's all it is. It's a watch. We want to watch out for each other. We want to do vacation watches, kind of like what you were talking about.
And it'll go on. It's going to grow. It'll evolve, and it'll turn into something more. As long as, again, it doesn't turn into a vigilante anything. And we're such a small town that the majority of the crime, at least by my guesstimation, understanding, what have you, is that we're going to probably see somebody. If somebody sees somebody, it's most likely going to be somebody from town. And if it's not somebody from town, it's going to be somebody from a nearby town. Either or, we'll see the information, you report it, they will reach out to that person. It's not like you're in the city and they're gone, and if they get out of sight, they're gone forever. They're never going to get caught. In a little town, no, they'll just go knock on their door and say, hey, you got like 5 witnesses say you were there. We got video.
Well, the prime example of that is about 3 weeks ago, we had a truck stolen here in town.
Yeah, I heard
We
about
never
that.
have, well, I say, since I've been here, we don't have a whole lot of vehicle thefts.
No.
And in the span of a week, we had an ATV and a truck theft. And the truck was located in another county over. But it was put on Facebook that it was missing. Somebody saw that, who knew somebody that saw that truck in a field. And it got back to us, and we went and recovered it. And within a week, because of that type of instance, we had both vehicles recovered. Now we're still working on it. Now we've got to work it backwards and figure out who stole them. But the biggest part about cases like that is we want to put people in jail for doing it, yes, but most people just want their property back.
Exactly.
You work hard for your
Yeah.
property, and in my career, I worked auto theft for 2 years. And hardly ever did we get the vehicles back, at least in drivable condition. And both of these were still in relatively good condition.
Good.
But it took a bunch of people who saw this and knew somebody who had some information that brought it back to us, and we ran on it, and with the help of the sheriff's departments, we were able to locate that. And that's what I say, the watch, the being the voice and the eyes and ears for the police department, just for each other.
Now, the truck, was it a theft of opportunity? Because from my understanding, the person went into a place, left the vehicle running. So while the vehicle was running, while they were inside, that's when it got stolen. Was that how? Because it wasn't like they broke in, took the vehicle, started it, jack-wired, hot-wired it or anything like that.
Yeah, with it being still ongoing, of course, I can't go a whole lot into it, but it probably was to an extent.
I see that a lot, though,
but
too.
it
I see
was-
people just letting their vehicles run.
Well, and
Yeah.
yes, when it's cold especially, and you
Yeah.
got to run to the convenience store or whatever, or you just got to run inside the house to grab something.
But you just don't do that in the
And-
city. People just don't do that. I
But
don't.
where it was
You would think
located,
here you'd be fine to do something like that.
where it was located was a specific area that has been targeted for burglaries in the past.
Really?
So I think it was maybe an opportunistic thief at that moment with a specific reason behind it.
I just want to get to the next town.
Or they just happen to be, and it was, we've got a good feeling we know why it was stolen and what it was going to be used for. But I think it's a little bit of both. They needed a vehicle for a reason, and this
For
opportunity came up.
another crime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Now, going back to, you did make a comment earlier about the running, about being a little like mentally disabled, running towards guns, shots fired. But I mean, I personally feel that that's how we want our PD to have a mindset of. I mean, in light of what they did with the Uvalde baloney, and we touched on that on the podcast that will never be shown because we lost audio.
podcast
But I mean,
Yeah.
so those officers.
That fish
they-
was that big, I swear.
yeah. Those officers were there. They didn't run towards anything. They waited. It took a father to go in there and do what's what and what was needed. No, you want to know that your officers that you hired that are here to protect and serve are running towards shots fired. Then, to me, it could be considered mental. I think it's considered heroic.
I think it just takes a special kind of person. Firefighters. My son's a firefighter. My brother-in-law's a firefighter.
Yeah,
My father-in-law.
yours too, right?
My father-in-law retired from the fire department after 30 plus years. They're the ones that are. This isn't PC to say, but they're the ones that are crazy. I would never run into a burning house. And I say that jokingly, but it takes a special kind of person to be a first responder of any sort.
All right.
I think with us, it's just we know. To an extent, we know what we're getting into, and it's not what we know or what we do at that moment in time, but that we know how to deal with it if it comes up. And in a small city like this or small town communities, you get people homegrown, and it's not any fault of their own. They don't have that experience that would tell them, without even thinking about it, I need to do this. Whereas you get that experience in the big cities because you have. Again, in a week, you have the gamut of all the biggest felony type crimes. So no offense to them or no offense to them. It's just a mindset change of bringing in people that are experienced and that have seen and done various things so that we can hire those younger officers that haven't been there, but we know how we can put them through scenarios, we can put them through certain types of training that we went through or we saw on the street and pass on that knowledge. That way they will know how to handle it if it happens.
Do you all have systems in place with our schools now? Like, I know Anthony Figueroa is not with us, but we do have a pro temp person in this place, and eventually we're gonna, from what I understand, around March, I think, we're gonna have a full-time person brought in. But do you have a system in place, or are our teachers trained to carry? I mean, what kind of schools do we have here in that situation?
Yeah.
I know we got those signs out front that say
Yes.
our teachers
Yes.
are armed. I love seeing those signs out
That's awesome.
I don't
Yeah.
And they're highly trained. You know, they don't just give them a gun
Of course.
and a pass and say, "Here, go carry." You know, they put through a lot of training to be safe and secure and understand how to use that weapon in a time of need. As far as us, you know, the school, since Uvalde happened, the school administration for the state has put extra safety precautions in play. And we've got a safety committee that they formed here in Wolfe City that we meet once every few months to discuss
right on.
new safety plans, and we've discussed putting an SRO in the schools.
What's an SRO?
School resource officers.
Okay.
If, let's say, for example, if we had one, it would be an officer, a Wolfe City officer that was assigned to the school district. And because we're so small, they'd probably be housed at the high school, as far as having an office. But they would make their rounds throughout the day and just visit each campus and be available for school-related calls.
Good.
Upset parents, you know, if, God forbid, a student should be found in possession of a knife or a gun or any kind of weapon or drugs, things like that. And that's, I've got thoughts about that. The sheriff and I have sat down and talked about it. We've had some conversations on some things that we could collaborate on. And I think ultimately, I think the people would appreciate having an officer that is dedicated just to the safety of their kids.
For sure.
Especially in light of everything that's gone on,
Oh, yeah.
you know, this last several years. But that'll be something that, you know, come budget time, we'll talk about and kick around a few ideas on how we can do that and still be able to afford it.
Yeah, considering our town is small and our budget, since I've been enlightened to what we actually have since being in city council, I mean, you know, we have a very small budget, but we've been able to make do with what we have, and that's why, like, even getting a new vehicle, new to us, but you found a great deal. You know, we're doing our best, and that's one it's a good thing. I mean, I think there's other things we can look to try to raise more
In
money.
regards to having a school officer, there's nothing on the planet more important to parents than the
Yes.
safety of their children.
Right.
Yes.
I could definitely see if more money was needed for that, a
You could
lot of
raise
people
it.
would be on board for that.
Yes.
Well, and again, without going into a whole lot of details, because this is something that I sat down and was thinking about 2 weeks ago. But we have an opportunity, and I'll use Garland as an example. With the SROs, they're Garland officers, and they are assigned to schools. Garland pays half of their salary. The school district pays half of their salary, and then the police department provides them with a vehicle. They provide them with, you know, computers. They pay their benefits, all that. But when school's not in session, then they become patrol officers, and so it forms that relationship with the school,
Yeah,
and it makes the parents feel better because their kids are taken care of, and they've got somebody there that can handle the issues that may come up. But we also get the benefit of, okay, during the summertime, now we've got an extra body on the street
Right.
when we need it.
And things can get a little crazier in the summertime anyway.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. Summertime and full moons, it never fails. Those
Yeah.
are always our
Yeah,
two busiest
Let
times.
me tell you, I used to work in an emergency room, and I can tell you those full moons.
Oh yeah.
It's not a myth. Those full moons are crazy.
Nah. Yeah, I used to hate when I was in patrol. I used to hate it when it was a full moon. It's like, oh man, we're gonna be slammed tonight.
Yeah,
But-
it's funny how it works.
But I mean, there's there's technical issues that need to be worked out if we were to do something like that because of our situation with our school district, where our high school is actually in the county, and the elementary and the middle school are in the city limits. So the county is technically responsible for anything that happens at the high school.
That's right.
But I mean, there's things that there's agreements we can come up with that, and I think that's something that we'll look towards. Since this school year is almost over, look towards maybe the next one. Sit down with council and sit down with the sheriff and just everybody involved, and see how ultimately we just want to take care of our kids.
Let's do it on there.
Absolutely.
You know, Patrick's there. We'll all be
Yeah,
there.
like I said, there's nothing more important.
Yeah.
That's the nightmare of all nightmares
Yeah.
is to turn on the TV or radio and see a school shooting.
And what's ridiculous
At
is
your kid's
nobody
school.
ever cared about that until these last 2 decades. Prior to that, this didn't happen. All right, early 90s.
It wasn't a thought. Yeah.
It wasn't a thought.
Columbine kind of kicked it off, but Columbine wasn't the first one.
I wouldn't even doubt, and I do believe this was the case, back in the 80s and early 90s, high school students from small country towns were driving their trucks with rifles and stuff in their truck, and stuff like that. Nobody gave
Nobody
it a
gave
second
it,
thought.
yeah.
Nobody
Right.
cared.
Well, my grandfather told me they used to have rifle class, like where they would like target shoot and
Yeah,
have
archery.
competitions, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, if anything's proof to be told, is that it's not the guns. That's the issue. It's the people. And it's the people that need.
There's
to
been a
be-
cultural change of some sort that
And it comes back to what I said earlier. It's a cultural change. You're absolutely
Oh,
right.
and I think the mental disability, it's become more rapid. And I think it's more than beyond just what you're born with and hereditary and all that. I think it's what we're eating, what we're drinking, things have changed that we didn't have then that we have put in now, that's just affecting us. Cancer was something that, that's terrible news, but you heard it and it was about a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. Now we know at least 10 people in our lives that have cancer, are suffering from cancer or are going to have it. Either or, it's so rampant, Everything about this world is just
there's a lot of factors to it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
big time.
I mean, I worked in Santa Fe for several years, and who would have ever thought that little bitty old Santa Fe, Texas, would have one of these incidences happen? And I knew, I helped raise some of the kids that were high school students then. When I was there back in the early 2000s, there's kids that are just graduating and that were part of that I personally know.
Was there? Oh, there's a shooting at Santa Fe.
Yeah. Oh, geez, what was it? 4 or 5 years ago now, I guess. Maybe a little longer than that. There was multiple people that were shot and killed.
What?
And it was a student that I guess had been bullied and whatnot. And he came into the school and took out as many as he could before he got caught. Now, I will say this. The school, the ISD police that were there, I knew most of them. And the one of them was hit, and he was hurt and injured, but did not hesitate 1 second. I mean, they were in there, there probably would have been a whole lot more casualties had those officers not gone in and done their job. And the community as a whole, there's a lot of cops that live in here in Wolfe City. There's a whole lot that live in Santa Fe. And
Yeah.
they all showed up. And it's a horrible situation to have, but it shows the kind of community you have
Yeah.
when something like that happens. But again, it goes back to who would have ever thought it would happen? Who would ever thought it would happen to Uvalde?
Yeah.
It's great. So, what somebody bullied him? I mean, sorry, but that goes down to mollycoddling, participation trophies, all that baloney.
Oh.
Because I'm sorry, it does because he's, you're bullied. Who wasn't bullied? I was bullied until I wasn't. Everybody's bullied their entire lives until they make a stand
Well,
for themselves and say,
bullying's a horrible thing, but
It
it's
is.
no excuse for killing.
But yeah, it's no excuse for killing. It's no excuse for going to that level. We had that song from, what was it in the grunge era? Jeremy. But what was the name of it?
Oh yeah, Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam did Jeremy. And that was the first time I heard of something like that. And I remember watching the video, hearing the song, and thinking that would never happen. And then it happened, in Colorado with the trench coat mafia and all that baloney, And it's like, honestly, I feel like it was put out there into the universe, in the open. You can do this. And then people did it. I think it just wasn't a thought before.
I don't know.
I think there's a lot of different variants that have created the society we have today, and I won't voice my opinions on a lot of that. Because it probably wouldn't be be very many people happy about it. But ultimately, it is what it is. It's occurring. Now that we know it's out there and it occurs, we have to be vigilant in stopping it, being proactive before it occurs in our city. We have to take care of. We can only take care of what we can control.
Exactly.
And we can control, for the most extent, what happens here, as long as everybody's on the same page and on board.
Let me ask you a real sensitive scenario question. So, a shooting happens, God forbid, one of our schools. We get notice of it right away. We have townspeople now rushing over there with their own weaponry. What do you do? Do you stop them or do you let them go? They're going there with their hearts intact. Sure, they might get themselves shot or whatever, but anything, isn't that something that would be?
If it's a police officer, I say wear something that identifies yourself as a cop.
No, I'm saying
A jacket.
just a regular citizen.
And I know. And I say that
Father.
because if,
A mom.
think of it this way, we don't know, at that moment in time, we don't know who's in there doing the shooting, right? Or whatever act is going on. We get there and it's already a volatile, high-stress situation, and I see somebody coming, and we don't know how many bad guys are there. And we get there and we're trying to, tactically enter so that we can make entry and get there as soon as possible to save lives. And we see somebody in plain clothes with a gun come running from one of the other sides. We don't know if they're involved, if they're a good guy, bad guy, what. That takes our attention off of going and saving the kids and the teachers and everybody that's inside the school where this is going on. And now we've got to pay more, or put some of our focus on this person. And that person's, I won't say that it won't happen or will, but that person puts themselves in a position where they could get shot, or they could get harmed, or a number of things.
It's already a high stress situation with
Yeah.
a lot of confusion and going in there without.
I say
So there you go, folks. Don't do it.
I would say
Just don't
leave
do
it to the good guys that are supposed to be there. We will do our jobs. I do not have anybody on my staff, and I won't have anybody on my staff where I feel like they would not, in a scenario like that, or in any high stress scenario, that they would be on my staff. It wouldn't happen. And that comes again back, hiring the people that you know and understand their training together once they're hired, and bringing in people that can learn under the tree of knowledge and success that we have built for ourselves. And I say that as in our experienced law enforcement that we have in this city. That way they, in turn, will handle it the same way that we handle it.
Well, like it used to be putting your life on the line when you are in this kind of a position and job goes without saying. And nowadays it's like, I have to go home to my kids too. And it's like, yeah, if you worked at the library,
Right.
but, and we want you to go back to your kids, but you were hired to protect us. You have these benefits and all this other list of whatever, and maybe you're not getting paid a hell of a lot, but you accepted a job that is part of the, the application. That's part of it.
And of course, everybody wants to make a livable wage. I get that. I completely agree with it.
Well, I mean, it's going
But
through
we
the
have-
fire trucks and the firemen. I mean, the fire department. We have a volunteer,
Right.
all volunteer station, and I have zero doubt that any one of them would put their life on the line to save whatever, even a kitty cat. I don't care. Like, they all seem like badass dudes, right? They're ready to, serve and protect and do what have you, and they're just volunteer. Which definitely want to get Gene Dawson in this podcast one day, and talk with him.
And hey, hats off to him. My son, I said it earlier, he works for McKinney Fire Department, but he's a lieutenant in the Cattle Mills Volunteer Fire Department. It takes a certain kind of person to do this for free. Do that for free. I did it my first year and a half in law enforcement.
Right.
I was a reserve. So I get that. I put my life on the line in Lamar, Texas, and for no benefit other than I was having them carry my commission. It was a foot in the door.
Well, I applaud you all, honestly,
But-
both sides.
We also have a lot of training that, we either should be getting or have gotten if you're working for the right department. And again, it goes back to, we don't get paid for what we're doing at that particular moment. We get paid for what we know how to do, know how to respond when that time comes.
Yes.
So,
Right on. Moving forward, let's talk about the donuts with the chief or coffee with the chief. We're going to come up with a really cool name for that, but there's a thing that Chief Ivy would like to bring into town, and we will present it in the Wolfe City Mirror podcast as well as on the police
The
Wolfe City PD
Facebook page.
So we'll definitely have it in many locations for you to find it. But you want to talk a little bit about that?
There's been a lot of cities that have started it. I learned about it from a chief in Princeton. He's no longer there. And then chief in Josephine. I think chief over in Cattle Mills has done it a few times. But they'll call it coffee with the chief, coffee with a cop. one of those two variants, and it's nothing more than an hour, hour and a half, and we get you a cup of coffee if we're at the donut place, get you something to eat, and we just chit chat. We don't. It's not about anything in particular, unless you have a specific topic you want to bring up, but it's just a way to get the community out and involved again, and get the police department out there. And it may not always be me. It may be Lieutenant Gonzalez, or it might be Sergeant Hayes, or somebody else. I think we should
that would be neat.
change it
Yeah,
up.
all three of you, yeah.
Yeah, and
All
change
three
it
of you
up
involved.
so that you're not always going to want to get my opinion. You're going to want to get Lieutenant Gonzalez's opinion, or you want to get to know that person as well.
I know Chief Gonzalez. I mean, Lieutenant Gonzalez might intimidate some people. He's
You keep saying he's a big fella.
He's a big, but he's like seriously, man. If he was in the WWE, it would make sense. He would be like, oh, I could see that.
At one point in his early career with Frisco, he was working out and training with the Christian powerlifting team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the ones that get on stage and they bend those steel bars and tear phone books in half and stuff.
Jeez.
He was very big into bodybuilding. Still is into weightlifting. Not quite as big as he used to be. So when you say he's big,
Can't imagine.
he was a lot bigger before. But he's a heck of a good guy. I can't say enough about him.
Yeah, he's such a cool guy.
But again, go back to the coffee with the cop, coffee with the chief, whatever we want to call it. It's nothing more than just another event to get folks out and talk to each other and just converse and have a good time before heading off to work or whatever it is you're going to do for that day.
I liked how during the podcast it didn't happen. You talked about this situation where community members are coming up to you, maybe telling you there's this certain person that keeps speeding down this certain road. And I like how you touched on, you're not looking to necessarily go out and ticket that person or doing that. It's as simple as stopping it. Might just be knocking on the door and be like,
Just educate them.
we've had people that are saying you're speeding, they have kids out in the yard, please just slow it down.
Yeah, and that kind of goes
And you're
hand in
being
hand.
watched.
It goes hand in hand with the
And you're being
watch
watched.
program. Is the first form of, or the first level of use of force continuum is mere presence, right? So by us making that contact with that person, they may not be the same one that people are seeing. They may think it's that person. But if it is, it lets them know that, hey, we know what's going on. We're just trying to be cordial and ask you that if it's going on, you slow down, because obviously we don't know that they were really speeding. Some people perceive speeding, and on these city streets here, I've tried to go more than 35 miles an hour, and there's not many you can do it on.
If you're not on Santa Fe doing it, then
Exactly.
you're taking a risk.
But,
I'm tired.
people have a say, and they want to be heard. And if it's as simple as going and knocking on somebody's door, and they see that, or they see us out making traffic stops, it makes the community feel good. It makes them feel safe and secure. And that's our job, to be out, be seen, be visible, let people see us doing our job. And the ones that are out there speeding, if we're doing it during different intervals throughout the day, they're going to say, okay, I'm not going to know when they're out there, so maybe it'll slow it down for a month or two. If that's the only thing that I've got to worry about in this town is speeders, I'll take it. It's just being out and being visible. That's 90% of our job, and especially here. People just want to see us out. They want to talk to us, and if I got to spend 20, 30 minutes talking to somebody, just because they don't ever get to talk to a police officer, maybe they live alone, they don't ever talk to anybody as it is. I think that's a big part of our job, is just, that's the serving the citizens portion of serve and protect.
I feel like I always see an officer at like all the events in town. It seems like when I go to the school functions, there's always an officer there. They probably have kids there, but they're in uniform. So
Yeah.
I love that there's always an officer around, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, going back to what you said about, somebody that maybe they're lonely, they have never spoke to anybody this week or whatever like that. I mean, I personally, I want to tell you, if that's you, and no shame in that, but there's literally no reason for that. I didn't know a soul when I moved here, and I just made myself involved, put myself out there. Join the committees. We will all welcome you. Patrick and I just got involved with the library, and they just did a soup fundraiser at the first Main Street what was that church that we had the?
The Church of Christ.
Church of Christ. Oh my God. There's such a Bible Belt out here, so there's so many churches. The Main Street Church of Christ. They had the soup fundraiser for the library last Sunday, a week from today, and it was like it did well. There was a good turnout, and anybody that wanted to could have came and helped as well. I just started. I ended up helping serve. I helped wash dishes. What have you.
On the topic of the library, just so y'all know, we got the cookbook coming out.
Yes.
I'm working on right now. I'm
Right
working
on.
on it this morning, actually, working on getting all that formatted. So we'll have that cookbook hopefully up for sale in the next month or
And
so.
it's going to be for sale on Amazon.
It'll be on Amazon. Yep.
For sale on Amazon. And also the library is going to allow a certain dollar amount from what we had discussed to buy a certain number of those as well. That will be for sale at the library, but you can also get it sent to you, delivered to you. But definitely all that money goes straight to the library. We need a library. We lost the liquor store. We don't want to lose a library. I know they're like far apart in the spectrum, but still, a town without a liquor store.
Bring back the liquor
A town
store.
without a library. It's just, what's going to be next?
Yeah, I love the library.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
such a cool little spot, that
Yeah.
old train depot. It's just beautiful architecture, and I definitely want that to survive for.
Now, I'm not a PC guy, but there's computers. Like, they got these great monitors, and those computers look pretty state of the art. I'm a Mac guy, so they mean nothing to me. But I do look at them; they look really great. I'm like, and I don't know what they charge for use, but they can't be expensive.
I'm sure it's free, surely,
Maybe
to use the computer.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know most of them. It's free to use a computer, and it's like 10 cents, 20 cents to print.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably for the
If you're
printing.
gonna print
That's
something
right.
out. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you have a library card. You can use the computer just like you use the books. And
I would say they have at least 6 computers.
Do you know how much the budget is for the library?
What do you mean?
Like how much of the city budget goes towards, or
Not
is
a
any
lot.
of it?
Not a lot. We do. There is a certain amount, but not a lot. And most of their money comes from fundraisers, and that's why they have them. They'll have the book sales, they'll have the soup sales, they'll have bake sales. I just went this past Saturday to the Webb Hill, and they had their book club event that certain proceeds of that amount goes to, I'm sure, the library, but it's presented by the library, and they had a writer from Dallas. She had come out, and I will put up her name in the video. I can't think of her name right now, but she's a really good writer, and I bought 2 of her books. Hopefully one day I'll read them. I still got yours to read. So
Got several of mine you need to
it's in a succession. It's like I got all of these books from Patrick to read, Chris Miller, then this woman, so, plus other books that
Hey,
you've
don't
read.
worry about Chris. That's Winsboro.
Yeah. Forget Chris. But I also want to read the other writer's name, the one that sells here at the Art Walk, and I'm drawing a blank on her name. Why am I drawing a blank?
Fantasy. She writes fantasy.
She writes fantasy. Fantasy. I'll put her name up. You'll see a picture, like right now, right here. Just follow her. Anyways, I'm definitely happy with being a part of this. Being a part of that. I'm sure you're liking that, and again, there's no reason for anybody to be alone out here. Get to know. That's like I didn't know Saul. Now I know. Now I'm Mr. Wolfe City.
Given you are
Not trying to be specific.
you're the most social person I've ever met, so it's
I love it. It's all fun.
I am not very social, so it's a little different for people that are not.
Well, I'll tell you, if I didn't get involved, what else would I do? I'd go stir crazy.
Yeah.
I can't just sit around I have to do something. Friday night, it's one Friday night a month, but it's one Friday night a month that street's alive. You were out here this past Friday, nobody's out there. You're except for the few that are eating at El Arbo, stopping at
That
the
art
grocery
walk's
store.
a lot of fun.
Huh?
That art walk's
It is
a lot
fun, even when it's small. Even when people are like, is anybody going to turn out? I'm like, doesn't matter. There's people there. It's fun. The street is alive. One night a month. Please come out. So the next one's March 3rd. Keep that in mind. And the weather should be warmer. If you play guitar, if you play drums, if you play any instrument, I don't care what you play. If you play bagpipes, you know who you are. I spoke to you. Bring them out.
Yep.
Play on the street. Play on Main Street. Love to see you do that.
And it's all free for vendors.
It's all free. There's no
You
charge.
don't have to pay to set up a table.
No,
You come
don't.
out, set up your table, sell what you want, make
You want
Hot
to sell
dogs, food, whatever you want to do.
you want to sell pretzels that you make at home? Bring it. People come in and they sell their own jelly, and I bought a couple of that.
Last time.
They're oils. They cooking oils. A bunch of crafts. Some artists. So a lot of you might have noticed that I call it Wolfe City's First Fridays now instead of First Fridays Art Walk, blah, 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 because it hasn't been that. It's been more of a market but a creative market. And there are artists here and there. But for me to say an art walk, it should be, as in my book, it should be artists from end to end, and mixed with everything else. So again, artists, please come out. Sell your wares, show your stuff, network, whatever you need to do. Musicians, craftspeople, keep coming out. I love your stuff. I buy your bracelets, I love, buying all that stuff, your rings, all of that stuff. You guys do great work. I bought some signs that were hand carved that says Wolfe City and, all of that. In California, you didn't do that. You didn't buy you didn't buy stuff you didn't put Long Beach and you didn't have state shaped coasters or anything like that. But here in Texas, I have state shaped coasters and Wolfe City. You're just proud of that stuff, right? It's
for sure.
It's neat. Anyways, so definitely want to discuss your. Oh, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say anything that brings the community out and together is a plus in my book.
And the PD has been very positive and very present in those, and I love that.
I think it's important for us. People typically will see a police officer during bad times. We see the public at its worst most of the time, and 99% of the time we only talk to folks when it's because there's a problem, somebody's complaining. For city events, community events, just to be there, be present, just to have a conversation like we are now, it's huge because it lets them know that we truly are here for the community and not just to put people in jail and write tickets and be the bad guy. National Night Out, the Neighborhood Watch, it's all the Art Walk or First Fridays. It's all kind of intertwined and it's got the same theme. It's bringing the community together.
Yeah, and it's so much fun. And Jared, Sergeant Jared, he was very present at all the first ones before his hip situation. He was. I really appreciate you, Jared. Thank you, Sergeant Jared, for being out there.
Right now, he's just administrative secretary, Jared.
How many words a minute does he type?
Well, that wasn't on the description. The job description.
He's having to search.
But he's. I'll say this: he's a prime example of this city and how we take care of each other because it came to a point with his injury situation that we weren't going to be able to keep him on staff anymore, and with help from the mayor and our city attorney, and we kind of put our heads together and how can we keep a good person with a good heart that means to do well by the city, and God, he knows everybody.
Right.
How can we keep him here? How can we continue to have the strong points that he brings? How do we keep that on staff? And we were able to make it work. And
awesome.
So I say that tongue in cheek with the administrative secretary because he is injured, so he has to stay inside the building and not enforce any laws. But I would rather him do that and me and Lieutenant Gonzalez pick up some of the slack on the streets and whatnot, so that he can not only provide for his family and keep his job, but he has a lot of worth with the community and with the department.
Right on.
You can't replace somebody like that.
No, not at all.
So shout out to him and his family.
You're a good man, Sergeant Jared. Let's go into your Citizens Academy.
The Citizens Police Academy.
Yeah.
Most people probably know what it is, or at least have heard of it.
This is where your teaching comes in.
It is.
Your teaching.
And of course, it's very preliminary. I wanted to get it kicked off by the summer. I don't know if it's going to happen.
So can you make me a police officer? Can I
No.
shoot people and stuff? And...
No, it's not. It's not an academy to make folks police officers. It's really more or less a modified version of a police academy that brings community members in. And obviously, they have to be respected members of the community. They go through background checks. Can't have any felonies. So, very vetted folks that are able to do it, but it gives them a chance to see what it is that we go through when we train to be police officers. And they've got modified classes, over penal code and over criminal code of criminal procedure. And we'll have guest speakers come in when it's, if we're talking about investigations. Lieutenant Gonzalez can talk about that. I've got friends of mine in the Garland Bomb Squad, and when we go through that, we'll bring in some of them to speak on their particular expertise in the field. And it's usually about, anywhere from 10 to 13 weeks. They'll get to go out to a shooting range and do some live fire shooting, and we'll do some mock traffic stops. It just gives the community a better idea of what it is that we go through as far as training to become police officers, and then put that into play with the scenarios, building searches, and shoot, don't shoot scenarios, not live fire, but rubber guns and rubber knives, but it still gets that stress factor working, and it makes that, we call it the OODA loop. It screws up their OODA loop to where then they just
I like that.
It's a term that they use in SWAT mostly, but basically it's something that your mind is trained on one thing and one thing only, and then something comes out of nowhere and it distracts your train of thought.
Yeah.
With law enforcement, you've got to be able to know how to maintain that train of thought and deal with the extras, the surprises. And I mean, we don't go into a whole lot of detail, but we go into it enough to where they get that stress factor. And there's a whole curriculum for it. I helped create the one in Santa Fe back in the early 2000s before I left there, and it was a huge success. And from the Citizens Police Academies, the ones that graduate, they can go on and they can form their alumni association. And in Santa Fe and in Garland, it's a huge thing. They do benefits all the time, and they do benefits for like the library, or if we need some special equipment that we haven't budgeted for that year. They have a national Citizens Police Academy Association, Alumni Association conference every year. And I mean, this thing's gone national or international. They've got it across seas too. And I think it's just something that it may not work. The first one may, get planned and nobody shows up.
But is it a weekend thing, or is it like during the week, or how's that?
It's usually 2-3 days during the week. I know when we were doing it in Santa Fe, I think we did it 2 days a week for 13 weeks. But you can make it as long or as short as you want. Okay. You can kind of play with it and create the time frame on it to what suits the availability of not only the people going through it, but the information you're going to put out there. And again, it's not teaching you to be a cop. It's opening your eyes to what it is that we go through on a daily basis, have a little bit better understanding, and it ultimately brings the community together with the police department.
Now, do we have to do the grueling field training and climbing the wall? Because if so, I fail myself. I will not make it. I'm sorry. I forget. I'll probably get like 3 feet up and fall back.
So I'll tell you, when I was in Garland, I was younger and a little bit fitter and whatnot, going through SWAT trials. Yeah, you had to climb a rope, you had to climb up walls, you had to hang upside down. I mean, there was a lot of things just to get to the next portion of the SWAT tryouts.
But do the Citizens Academy have to do that?
If they want to do that, then we can let them, go scale walls on their own. We're not going to do anything that's going to put them in any kind of harm's way.
I'm in.
Any distance running.
Right. Distance. Like,
now,
I catch up.
There might be some discipline running, but not. But no, and you miss 3 days and you may not be asked to come back. It's something that you need to be there, because if we decide to do this and you don't show up for several weeks, you kind of putting yourself behind the 8 ball. And so what's the point of continuing?
No.
But that's all things that need that would be worked out and hammered out
What's
prior
the cost
to putting it
generally?
in. No cost.
Oh, free.
It's free to the city.
Okay.
There's a background packet that we would put out. Everybody that's interested would fill out the background packet, and it's your standard information, where you work, who you know, how many kids you got, what's your blood type.
No crazy.
I'm kidding. But you have to vet them, because you do allow them to go out to live fire range and drive police cars when they're when we're doing mock scenarios for traffic stops. And
Wait, we get to drive the police cars?
in a mock scenario.
What?
Learn.
So
I'll have traffic. Some guys I know from traffic division in Garland. I know some in Greenville. I'd have them come up, and that's their area of expertise. So I'll let them train it, and I'll let them teach it, and then put it into play in the scenarios.
I'm so turning the lights on, the sirens, doing burnouts.
So Ant's going to be our bad guy.
Fishtails at the Dollar General
Throw the
parking
cuffs
lot.
Yes, we will teach you how to handcuff, and he will be the first example.
No stun gun training.
No, we won't be tasing anybody.
Oh, what's the difference between a stun gun and a taser? Isn't there a difference?
Stun gun, it doesn't have projectiles.
Wait, can we
You can-
deputize my motorcycle? And then I could, like, be a motorcycle cop. Pull over!
I think that would have to take the councilman hat and put it back on your head.
Yeah.
But I don't think the rest of the council is going to approve that. You're all. You can ask them if you want.
Right.
I won't have any motorcycles here because we're not big enough for
We
it.
can't even go down 90% of the streets.
No.
It's like, stop. All right, we need back up to take
We
the rest of the road.
We would tear them up more than we would use them.
Right?
But I think just ultimately, again, when myself and another officer in Santa Fe put it together, it was when the Citizens Police Academy was just starting to get really well known. We did something similar when I was an auto theft investigator with the Galveston County Auto Theft Task Force, and it was a real big hit. And I really, in my time of teaching during it, I found a huge positive reaction from the citizens.
Sounds
And
great.
over time, it grew to something huge.
I wouldn't mind doing it just as a writer, just to learn more
Right.
about what y'all do as police officers. That would be very valuable.
Then
Yeah,
you could have
yeah.
some accuracy in your books.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Yeah, 'cause-
Well, let me tell you, in my first novel, I had this situation where somebody was killed outside the city limits, and I was like, can the city cop go respond to this? Because my main character was a city cop, and I was like, but this happened outside the city limits. So
Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't know if a cop could respond to that.
It's kind of funny you say that. There's a running joke. It was Garland and Dallas, but we always said that, if there's a murder and the body's on the Dallas side and the head is on the Garland side, who works it? And it's whoever gets there first and kicks the head off on the other side, or drags the body, depending on. And I joke, kind of morbidly, but that's
Right.
cops' sense of humor. But you're right, because if something happens, like I mentioned earlier with the SRO thing, if something happens out in the county, yes, we can respond to it if we are asked by dispatch to back up the county unit. And we'll get there, before them. Obviously, we're closer. But I've been sent to Celeste to back up the chief out there. We go as backup units, but the primary unit will be the unit that holds jurisdiction.
I see.
So then that's where that whole SRO thing we'll have to sit down with the sheriff's office, because they do have jurisdiction out there. I don't think he would have a problem with it, but something that we would have to work out.
Maybe they would take it on their payroll.
He's talked about, but then we're in the same situation, because then they would have just the high school, but then the elementary and middle schools are left not unsecured, but they're left without an officer. And I think if we get one that does all three of them, and just agree that anything that happens on high school property, we'll take care of, we'll investigate. And if it happens, it's an outcry or something's happening at home or whatever, then we'll work hand in hand with the sheriff's department and figure out from there who wants to take what. Ultimately, we're all just wanting to keep the kids safe. So,
Absolutely.
For sure.
Talking about the kids. So, Sergeant Jared gave me some Wolfe City stickers, badges, little badge stickers. But we have only like half a row left or something like that. We need to replenish that, and they need to be, the stickiness is terrible. Like it hurt, you'd be stuck, it's peeling, I was like, no. So we need to get
It's a
some new
police
ones.
sticker?
But it's for kids.
Junior badge
But I'm like,
type thing.
I wanted one. It says Wolfe City PD. I thought it was pretty badass.
you can't go flashing it.
No, but we definitely, I know, right? I have it in my wallet. They're like, but that's a sticker.
That presents other issues, and we're not going to go.
No, let's go there. No. But
We do need more, though.
we definitely need to put that in the city council budget. Come on, it can't be that crazy expensive. But I think
It's not.
cool.
It is and it isn't. So if you get them done right and they're professional looking, they're going to cost. But I will spend more money than I probably should because the parents like it, the kids. I go back to my time in Josephine. We had, thousands of stickers, and we had, and I'm looking at these too, temporary tattoos with the Josephine patch on them. And we had sunglasses, and we had pencils, and we had things that we'd give out to the kids. And yeah, we spent money on it, but we gave it out for free. But the kids go to their parents and they show them these things, and the kids like us, and they'll tell us that they trust us to tell us things, and that transfers to the parents, who the parents see that we are out there and
100%.
And talking to the kids, and it becomes a learning and a teaching moment where something may come up, and we're able to talk to the kids about a specific situation. It got so bad in Josephine that literally you drive by the park and the squad was just bombarded by every kid there.
Give us
But we would. I'd give out, I'd keep probably 200, 300 stack of temporary tattoos in my bag, along with stickers and pencils, and just hand them out. Because, it's probably going to wind up on somebody's floor or chewed on. But, again, it gets the word out there that we're here, we're out, we're visible, and we care about the community.
So we got to do that. I want to get that somehow figured out with our council, if that's where the money's going to come allocated from. But I definitely would like that to be a staple at every art walk, where when you're out there, or one of the Wolfe City PD is out there, they're handing it out to kids. Just any kid that when they walk by, here, kids will love that. They'll eat that up, and that will take them, to the next level of understanding that, hey, cops are good, police is good, and then as they get older, they won't want to rob the stores that have been broken into by kids lately.
So I have your permission to go over budget to buy some stickers and.
If I could approve it all, it would be like new vehicles, new everything, 5 more police officers.
And trying to raise our tax.
And you heard it here first. So he's going to get us
if
5
it was
new.
me, but it's not. I'm one of 5.
It's not the whiskey yet.
It's not the whiskey yet. No, I really truly believe that we definitely need to have that. Our PD, if anything at all, has to be 100% backed up, because you are our safety. You're the core. You are the department in the city that keeps us together, keeps us safe, And if we don't have that, like, can you imagine if we didn't have a PD and we had to rely on others, how much even more rampant and how much more, like, again, I have an issue just losing the liquor store. You imagine us losing the PD, losing our library, losing anything.
Yeah. It would be devastating. And again, that's where the growth comes in. I mean,
like, I don't want to lose our grocery store. We have one grocery store, and I don't want to lose it,
That's why I don't want some Brookshire's popping up.
Right? No.
I'll say it here now on camera in front of everybody. If Walmart ever comes up in town, I'm out here.
It won't. We're too small anyways. But, I mean, we are having a family Dollar Tree being built right now. That's happening. We'll see how that handles with the Dollar General. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But, I'm excited about the Whataburger at Commerce. Like,
I know, yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Right
Like,
when you say we're too small, but I lived in Princeton when I first moved up here when I went to work for Garland.
Places
exploded. And when I first moved there was like less than 4,000 people.
Yeah.
Walmart came in. Nobody ever thought there'd be a Walmart in Princeton, Texas. It came in. I drove through there yesterday to my daughter's softball game, and their new population sign is well over 17,000.
Oh, wow.
Well, one Walmart.
I think that Walmart shut down the grocery store.
It did.
Didn't it?
It did, David.
One Walmart definitely would pave our roads, but I don't know. Do we need? We've got one in Bonham. We've got one in Commerce. We've got one in Greenville.
Well, and the Brookshire's in Farmersville shut down that little grocery store they had there. And that was a great grocery store.
There's a Brookshire's in. Oh yeah, there is.
Right there off 380.
Yes, that's right.
And they had a real nice grocery store, a lot like the one we have here.
Yeah.
But it shut down just months after Brookshire's.
So you know what I like about our grocery store, and Jimmy brought me to the attention to me on this, is that every Saturday and Sunday, what they didn't sell that week, which is still fresh meat, right? It gets marked to $19.95 per bundle. So you can buy whatever meat that has that sticker. So you can buy, I think it's up to 5 or 4, I don't know. But you can buy it and they're big, groupings. So I'll buy a couple pounds of the ground beef, the sausages, and actual steaks, for $19.95, and my fridge is full of it, and I think that's something that if you don't know about it, take advantage of that. It's every Saturday and Sunday at Wolfe City Grocery. Do that.
And it goes back to taking care of the community.
And taking care of the community, yes, 100%. You know, even our donut shop. With our donut shop, I feel no insecurity with that place because every time I'm there, it's packed. It's doing well.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the early morning hours, you know. And they work specific. They're legit. It's like 1 o'clock done out.
Yeah.
You know, but they're at like 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
You know?
they were open during the ice storm too. My daughter and I.
Yeah.
We walked through the ice. We walked to the donut shop.
Why? That's why.
Just for fun.
You just want to break your neck? You're like, let me break my back.
But they were open.
My back feels healthy.
Warmed up. That was fun. Yeah. I
So-
went to the donut shop though.
So this leads to our ending theme of each
ghost
of our
story.
podcasts. So our last podcast, we ended it with a really good Bigfoot and ghost story from our councilman Corey McElrath, and he had some really good stories to tell. So it didn't have to be necessarily Wolfe City, and probably wouldn't anyways, because you know you're new to the town in a sense. But I'm sure you'll have stories eventually. But tell us one.
So the ghost
You said
stories.
something about a woman in white.
Yeah. and to this day, maybe I just don't want to admit it. I'm
saw a ghost.
fairly sure I know what I saw, but I'll play it down to I was tired, it was late.
Okay.
But back when I was a young rookie officer in Santa Fe, of course working the midnight shift, we worked 12-hour shifts, and it was probably, I don't know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Nothing's going on, it's dead of winter, and no cars out. Obviously too cold for people to be out walking around. And I drive through one of the back roads of the north side of town, and coming up to an intersection, and the other side of the intersection, I see, it's kind of foggy, but I see what looks like a female walking towards me, and kind of looked like she has a long white flowy dress or veil or something. I couldn't really make it out. So as I'm going through the intersection, I'm driving up closer to her. I'm gonna ask her if she needs help, 'cause obviously it's kind of odd. She's out in the middle of winter at 3 o'clock in the morning walking around. And as I get closer and closer, and it starts to fade out a little bit more, and when I get to where she was at, there's nothing there. I'm like, man, my mind's playing tricks on me. I need to go to the station. I need to get some coffee. That next shift, my sergeant, Philip Meadows, he's retired now, so I can say his name, and a good friend of ours that was a reserve with us, nickname was Bam Bam, so I'm talking to Meadows and Bam Bam, and I just relay that. I said, man, I was really tired last night. I thought I saw a ghost. Well, where were you? And so I told him where I was at. And, well, what'd you see? And I told him what I saw. And I said, there was a wreck there, like back in the early 30s or 40s, whatever. And a woman was killed there, and she was wearing a white, flowy, thin, lacy dress.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't go into a lot of specifics as to what I saw. Just I saw a female there, looked like she was walking, blah blah blah. I said, too cold, so I was going to check on her, and then she just disappeared. They told me that story, and for the next 3.5 years that I was there, I stayed away from that intersection.
So did you get like the heebie-jeebies? Like, did your hair stand up at the back of your neck or anything when you saw that?
When they said that, because I know them too, and I knew they like to play games on me. They took my gun apart one time when I left it in a gun box. So, they just used to, you could do things like that with each other and not get in trouble. I left a dirty diaper underneath one of their seats in the middle of summer, just things like that. So I thought they were jacking with me. But then when I heard a citizen who never, they knew each other, but they weren't around.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a citizen later on, a couple weeks later, and asked that person, he's kind of like Dub here, somebody that knew the town from its inception. And they gave me the whole story on what happened. I was like, I still it's hard to bring myself to admit it, but yeah,
You
I
saw a
probably
ghost.
saw a ghost.
Wow.
But no, I did. I stayed away from that intersection for the rest of the time. We didn't have any houses there, so it didn't matter, but it's just like, it's just too creepy for me. So that is my ghost story.
How far is Santa Fe?
From here, it's about 4.5 hours. It's 15 minutes north of Galveston, 45 minutes south of Houston.
Okay, I was thinking West Texas.
No, it's on the coastline. No, I was born and raised in Galveston. Came up here because I thought the money was better. I learned after my time in Garland that it's not always about the money.
Right.
But
It really isn't. Honestly.
that's what brought me here. It wasn't the money.
Yeah.
It was God led me here. Is the only thing I can tell you, because again, I didn't know much about Wolfe City except for what I read in the papers, and I knew that Brian Scott was a friend of mine, lived here, and then they told me the chief's job was open, and my chief and Leonard said, I really think you need to put in for it.
Yeah.
And when you get your chief's approval, it's kind of hard to say, nah, chief, I'm not going to do it. So, but again, it was God that led me here. It's why I'm here now, and I see huge, great things to come in the future, near future,
absolutely.
for all of us.
We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
100%.
Absolutely.
You get to a certain age and you realize that, you were chasing a dollar all your life, and then you get to a certain age and you realize it's not about the dollar, it's about your quality of life. And once you get your quality of life in check, everything else just falls into place, or it doesn't really matter because you have that.
Yeah.
And that's, basically what brought me here too. It's just, I love life. I'm not killing myself trying to make that dollar. Getting to enjoy just whatever I need. That's why we come to the country, right?
That's why people stay living here. This is what they know and this is what they love. They work outside of the town and come back.
No.
But hopefully we can get it to where people can work here too, or own businesses, and and live in town and bring in more money so that everybody flourishes. And these buildings, somebody buys them, fixes them up, and opens up, whatever kind of business.
All right, Jimmy did a good job with this place.
This is awesome.
Hey, we'll maybe show you a tour one day, but the place looks great. And this used to be a bar, right? At one time back in the day?
I think way back in the 20s and 30s.
And the place was like a saloon.
Speakeasy back then.
Yes, yeah, some crazy debauchery happening right here.
I think above City Hall used to be a brothel.
It was. Back in the...
You've seen the board up there where the girls peeking around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was saying earlier. Jimmy knows this, but when you walk in, there's a hallway. You can tell it's a hallway, and the sheetrock's knocked out, but the studs are still there. Well, you can follow the line on the ceiling and right down the side of the wall on the exposed brick on the outside, and you can tell where there was little rooms. They still have the hole for the stovepipes to go in, and they weren't probably no bigger than probably 10 by 10 rooms, maybe 10 by 15, but you could see where it was sectioned off, and that's where it was the hotel.
Oh wow!
But back when it was a hotel, from the stories I've heard, it was also a brothel back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. And that's an original building from the 1800s. And it's
There
still...
were some holes up in the front, in my ceiling up in the front that I really believe they're bullet holes. The way that it looked like where a projectile went through, there were several in there. And to me, it looked like you went out and shot an old washing machine or something, the way that it mushroomed out on the side. That's exactly what it looked like. I've closed them up since then.
Yeah.
But
No doubt.
You never know. I mean, we still got the old jail, so shoot, there could have been some kind of...
I want to see that old jail too.
Come on by. Matter of fact, come on by after we get finished painting, or come on by while we're painting. I'll give you a paintbrush.
Here's your paint right
Ants on
now.
it.
Oh, jeez. Well, seriously, I want to thank you for coming back again.
Yes, sir.
Sorry that the first one didn't pan out, but we're gonna have
Jimmy
we have way
probably
better
forgot
sound.
to hit record or
Huh?
something. We're gonna-
I know, we probably got no recording.
Isn't the
there.
red light supposed to be on?
Isn't it?
I can sit back here.
No, there's also light blue.
No, I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
So I'm glad you came out again. Thank you. Sorry for again, but hey, I think it was a little bit smoother this time,
I think
anyways.
so.
Yeah, I think so.
It went well.
Yeah, I think
it's
And
good.
thank you to Wolfe City for watching.
Yes,
for watching
and,
the Wolfe City Mirror Podcast.
And I want to say, Jimmy, thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know,
No problem.
this 100%, knowing that it's going to be filmed. Oh man, we did the whole show. It was so good, and nothing. Picked up 16 minutes of audio, and that was it. That's terrible.
That's all right. It happens. You pick up, you move
Right.
on. You just keep moving forward.
Definitely. So, anyways, thank you, and
Thank you.
hope to have you on here again.
Yes, sir.
And
Anytime.
Look out for the news of having donuts with Wolfe City PD or coffee with when we finally do that, which will be soon. Look out for that. Look out for any announcements for the Citizens Academy, and be a part of that. That'd be great. We get to do donuts in the police car, so
No donuts will be eaten
I was going to say, are we talking eating donuts or doing donuts?
Right there on Main Street. City councilman said it here first. I'm just kidding.
That will be in his motorcycle.
Yes. Anyways, thank you all.
All right. Y'all tune in next time.
Tune in next time.
Hello, Wolfe City again. Thank you for watching our podcast, this latest one with Chief Billy Ivy. I think it's very informative. It was a lot of fun. We hope y'all enjoyed it. Ant, what do you think about it?
Oh, I think it was great. And the sound was better. Wasn't the sound better? You let us know.
The only downside, we couldn't smoke in here.
I know, the only downside.
That's the only thing.
But you can definitely, it's good tobacco, by the way. But it was a good time. I had a good time. Thank you, Jimmy, again, for Jimmy Doolin, for filming and providing the state-of-the-art system for you all to enjoy a better sound.
That's right.
I do miss the war room, though. I love your man cave garage.
It's back to being my war room and not Wolfe City's war room.
Right.
But tune in next time. Any idea who we might have as a guest on our next episode?
She don't know this, but I'm going to call her back. Since we called Chief Ivy back, we will call her back because our first run was terrible, right? And we ran it in my little back lounge area of my pad, and we were just too close to everything. We had warped foreheads, the whole works. We're already ugly enough as it is with a normal distance. Don't need to add up close.
Speak for yourself.
It's scary. Well, I was just being nice. I'm actually beautiful, but Mr. Wolfe City, right?
So in other words, what you're saying is Amy is who you're going to ask.
I'm going to ask Amy Picker, and she has no idea, but I'm going to ask her back. I do have someone else come back.
So maybe we'll have Amy on the next podcast when y'all tune in, and
we totally will. Totally. She'll say yes because I'm going to make her. But we do have the audio for the other one, so I may put that out there as an audio show, and it's going to be pretty much a picture of us with the whole audio going on, and then we'll just touch base with her again. She's president of the Wolfe City Parks and Recreation, and there's a lot to be said, about that committee. And any of you that want to be a part of any committee, I say this over and over, I can't say it enough. Join us. We have room for you. We'd love to have you as part of it. If you're looking at yourself and saying, nah, they don't need my help. Yes, we do. We want your help. We want you to be a part. Love to see you there. Okay? Never second guess you as a person and what you can bring to the table.
So thank you again, Wolfe City, for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.
Definitely. So that sounded better, right?
Yeah,
I wish this was lit. Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to light it up, right?